It gives others the incentive to do the same, to create content of their sick, injured child. And if it doesn't happen organically, it could be encouraging parents or caregivers to injure their child for content, for likes, for views, for clicks, for money. I don't think that social media should allow videos of children with their medical information, their private information on display. And while we're at it, I don't think you should give baths to children on the internet. I don't think that that should be legal either. Don't film your kid in the hospital. Don't bathe your kid on the internet. Your job as a parent is to protect your children. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, then hi, my name is Brittany and I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm also the creator of the Brittany Holzbeck NP Review. It is the most affordable and comprehensive nurse practitioner boards review on the market. The course is accredited through the AANP, so if you take the course, you are eligible to collect 15 continuing education credits. The entire course is available at thenewNP.com. I'll put the website up here. I'll also have everything linked in the description box below. But there you can find my course for the AANP and the ANCC exams. You will also find a pharmacology crash course, a new NP clinical pearls. So it's just lots of education for new nurse practitioners going into practice. There's a lot more that's going to come on the website. I'm super excited about it. I actually just launched. I've been doing these courses, these review courses, since 2020, but my website is new, and so I'm really excited to share it with you guys. Definitely go check it out. There's something there for everybody on the nurse practitioner spectrum, and so yeah, I'm super excited. thenewNP.com. For today's video, I have something that I want to talk with you guys about, and if you've noticed, I've kind of tried to integrate some new content onto this channel, like podcast style. I actually started a podcast on another YouTube channel, and it kind of was taking off. It was doing really well, but it just became too much for me to take on with this channel, my podcast channel, my website, all of the other social media platforms. I don't know how people do it. I don't, but I could not manage. So I'm going to integrate this channel into some podcast like content as well, because I really enjoy this type of content where I just kind of get to sit down and talk with you guys about topics that interest me or I find relevant, and hopefully you will also find interesting as well. For today's topic, well, let's cover a couple basics here. So if you're not aware, I am a mom, and that is my most prized title, more than nurse practitioner. I love being a mom so much. I have 3 young kids. They mean the absolute world to me. You really don't see almost any of them on my content. I try to really keep them off of my public social media platforms. You know, I do have some private accounts that is like family and friends, and I put them on there, but I don't really like to show their faces on like my public platforms where just anybody could see. It's my own personal preference. That being said, one thing in particular that I feel very strongly about is creating an entire platform around a child's medical diagnosis or medical traumas. I have seen some content creators literally build their entire platform around their young child and all of the traumatic experiences in regards to their healthcare that they go through, you know, filming their procedures, their surgeries before and after, showing their wounds, showing how they're fed through a tube, just all of these really vulnerable private moments. And they actually build their entire content around that. That in particular, I feel very strongly about, that I don't think should be allowed on the internet. I do think that there should be laws in place that protect children from being filmed in the hospital, at doctor visits, getting procedures done. I firmly believe that. And I do recognize that I might have kind of like a unique perspective on this, because yes, I am a nurse practitioner and I've actually built my entire career around caring for individuals, adults and children. But I honestly feel as adults, regardless if you work in the healthcare industry or not, protecting children should be of the utmost importance, because they are the most vulnerable population. I don't think there's anything more important than protecting children. Regardless of my career as a nurse practitioner, I think also I have a unique take on things, because I was a child that spent many times in the hospital. I've mentioned this before, but I think it's pertinent to what I'm talking about today. when I was very young, I was 2 years old, I had a spinal cord tumor that went misdiagnosed for a little bit. Anyway, the tumor caused me to have a spinal cord injury. And so I did have the tumor removed. I had my spine fused, but in the process of all that, I did have, like I said, a spinal cord injury, and I did suffer partial paralysis. I had to actually live in the hospital for 3 months, 3 months straight, to relearn how to walk. I had to relearn how to feed myself. And yeah, it's been a lifelong battle ever since then. I've had hundreds of MRIs. When I say MRI, I don't mean like a quick MRI. If you've ever had an MRI, they in themselves are extremely uncomfortable. You can't move. It's very loud banging sounds. But my MRIs were over hours long. They actually had to sedate me. And I had hundreds of these. I had hundreds of doctors' visits, physical therapy, procedures, multiple different surgeries since then to deal with other complications due to the spinal cord injury. It's very difficult. If you've ever had a spinal cord injury watching this, then there's a lot that goes into it. And that's not to say that I'm unique by any means. Many of children have had it far worse than I have. But I'm just pointing out that my childhood, I spent a lot of it in the hospital. A lot of it dealing with a disability and being different. And if that happened in today's day and age, one could say my life was full of content right for the picking. It didn't even stop there. Actually, when I was 17 years old, I had thyroid cancer. I had to have, again, multiple different surgeries to end up eventually removing my entire thyroid. I had multiple rounds of radiation. I actually dropped out of high school during this year because of the difficulty with navigating all of this. And again, just think of the content that could come from all of my traumatic experiences. Thank God social media wasn't a thing when I was young. I do wholeheartedly believe, though, that my parents would have never filmed me for thousands, potentially millions of people to kind of just tap in and view my traumatic experience for their viewing pleasure. They would never. They prioritized my privacy, absolutely. But it just makes me think about the potential for what could have been and how traumatic my experiences were, but then to also share it with the world and have people watch for their pleasure and make comments on it. It just something inside of me irks and feels uncomfortable and aches for these children that really have no say in the matter, cannot consent, and are just having their most vulnerable traumatic moments filmed for thousands to watch. I honestly believe that this should be illegal. And I think it's worth pointing out that I don't even share all of my health information. Obviously, I gave you a very brief synopsis. There is a ton of stuff that I choose not to share because it is so deeply personal and it is linked to some PTSD that I have. And I choose not to share it because that's my prerogative. That's my right to keep some things private. But when we're talking about a child that is not able to say yes or no to being filmed, that their parent does it regardless, puts a camera in their face and just shares every detail of what they're going through, it should upset more people. I don't understand how social media platforms allow this content to be created. You should not be able to film within a hospital walls. We have HIPAA laws to protect a person's private health information. Why is this not applying to children? And why are their parents or caregivers or whatever allowed to film them and put it on the interweb for all to see? Thinking about the things that I keep private because I don't feel comfortable as an adult, confident in my own skin. I'm in my 30s now. I feel more comfortable. But when I was younger, no. I wanted so much to be like everybody else and not have those problems and keep things private. I can't imagine putting all of that on the internet. It just isn't sitting right with me, you guys. And I'm seeing so much of it on the internet, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. It is literally some content creators, their entire platform, not their health. If you want to share your own health stories and you're a consenting adult, yes, that's your right. But to sit there and film your child, I have no words. And I will be honest, sometimes I get torn in the idea that I do see that with social media and the medical world, that it does offer, social networking and potentially, say parents, they have a child with some rare disease, or they have a child that's been resistant to treatment. And so they're social networking, and maybe they can find more resources through social media as far as like different treatments to try, or different life improving, like quality of life improving treatments. I do see that there could be benefit from that. I do think that it's not completely black and white. It usually isn't in life. A lot of things are kind of in that gray area. But I think that there's a way that we could then create that type of content and still protect your child's privacy and dignity. You don't need to film them crying, getting a procedure done. You don't need to film, up close and personal of their wounds and scars, or giving them a sponge bath on the internet. I mean, really, these things should be a given. There are ways to talk about the medical world and the medical experience without compromising your child's dignity. Certain creators I've seen, honestly, they upset me so much. The worst of the worst have come across my feed. I do report the videos, and I do think that social media should not be allowing this type of content to just be pumped into the algorithm. I think sometimes they even push it up the algorithm because it's got that shock factor of showing these really sick, injured kids. One channel in particular, and I posted about this on my Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, I had it in my stories. I was talking about it. I'm so disgusted by this woman and her channel and what she does. It's called The House of Hughes here on YouTube. The mom, her name is Rachel, and she builds her entire content predominantly around her young son who has cerebral palsy, who is nonverbal, and he uses a wheelchair. She also incorporates her even younger daughter, who also somehow always ends up in the hospital. If you look through her thumbnails, there's always some kind of like a medical emergency or hospital visit or traumatic medical experience. I just want to take a moment to show you guys what I'm talking about, because it is really, really bad, and you need to see it to understand what I'm talking about. She just clickbaits the crap out of this and monetizes her children. Specifically, one of her last videos, her young son, I don't know, maybe he's like 5-ish. He, I guess, fell down their unfinished basement in his wheelchair, broke multiple bones in his face, and, she's sobbing for this video. Sobbing.
Beckham was bleeding so much that we actually couldn't tell where the blood was coming from, if it was coming from his nose or his mouth or his ears. Every time we tried to cover the gashes on his nose to stop some of the bleeding, because there were visibly a lot of gashes there. So we knew that some blood was coming from his nose. Every time we tried to cover it, he would hold his breath and stop breathing.
I'm trying to be, PC, politically correct here, but like, if you zoom in, there's not a tear to be seen. Literally not one tear. Just some red flags are popping up the way she talks about it. But, she zooms in on her child's face. It's bruised and swollen at all different angles. And I don't know how many times she says the word blood. She films him in the hospital with the neck brace on, which, again, I don't think you should be able to film in the hospital. There should be privacy laws that prevent that from happening. But the way that she just capitalizes on this traumatic experience for her child, it's disgusting, you guys. It's absolutely disgusting. I encourage you, if you have the time and you are interested, I think that you should go and report that video. I don't think that should be on the internet. She even goes on and says that he smells of blood and gives him a sponge bath on camera.
Has some blood on him, so I am just gonna make it as clean as possible. He's got some bruises on his body. Overall, he really is doing fantastic for what happened.
In what world should we be giving children sponge baths on the internet? Are we not familiar with the amount of creeps out there in the world? I mean, maybe I'm a little bit hyper protective of my kids, but why are we offering our children up on a platter? Don't bathe your child on the internet. That should be a given. Don't film your kid in the hospital. Don't bathe your kid on the internet. Protect them. That is your job as a parent. Your job as a parent is to protect your children. Give them some dignity, some privacy. How gross. This lady, if I were to be a nurse taking care of her child, I would have some questions for her. I think that CPS should be looking in, and I don't say that lightly. If you look at all of her thumbnails, the ones that get the most views, the most clicks, are the ones where there's like some traumatic experience. If you look at this one thumbnail, just this one in particular, major swimming accident in her face, like, could you be more staged? I didn't even watch the video. I'm assuming it wasn't some major traumatic drowning incident. Because, you know, the child's okay, but she's just trying to capitalize on these like shocking events. And as a former ER nurse that has taken care of children that have drowned, you are disgusting for trying to capitalize on that. That is absolutely sickening. My concern here is that when these are the types of videos that get the most clicks, the most views, and ultimately the most monetary gain, isn't there some kind of incentive there to continue to have your child get injured, get sick, have hospital visits, these traumatic experiences? There's an incentive there, right? When that's your sole income, is monetizing your child and their medical illness and traumatic experiences, there's incentive. And even if, say, she's not causing her child to be injured, I don't know, because it does appear very suspicious to me with how much her children are in the hospital. I would hope that there's some red flags with the providers that are taking care of these children. But even if, let's say, this is all organic with her children and this is really happening and she's just had horrible luck with her children constantly being in the hospital. But don't you think it also could incentivize this type of content for other creators that maybe don't have a sick or injured child? Maybe it would encourage them to injure their child or cause some kind of sickness or illness so they could make content out of it? Yes. I think it would be naive of us to not realize that this type of content incentivizes others to create this type of content as well. We've seen it. There was a girl, there was a girl named Alana Harris. I had to look up her name. She was, I think, predominantly on TikTok, but she had a 1-year-old daughter that she was behind the scenes overdosing with benzodiazepines, causing her child to go into a coma and having all of these other effects from being overdosed on benzos. It went so far as that she was actually duping the medical providers, and they were doing exploratory brain surgery, not once but twice. They did 2 brain surgeries on this baby that was just being overdosed by her parent to create content, to rake in revenue. I think when I was reading the report on this story, they didn't actually do a toxicology report on the child, and they were doing these exploratory surgeries. It was actually nurses that were taking care of the child and also found this mom on social media, kind of put 2 and 2 together and blew the whistle on her saying, hey, this isn't adding up. And then they did a tox report and found out that the child was overdosing on benzos. But the incentive there was to, again, get the views, get the money. They had GoFundMe going. They had all of this like, oh, woe is you from all of the commenters, that praise that they're looking for. Side note, again, when a mom is bringing a child in with having these unknown symptoms, especially like recurrently, I really think that we should be doing toxicology reports. I think that should be like standard procedure. I don't know. I kind of went off on a tangent there. But I'm bringing it back full circle. My point is that this type of content, because it's pumped out into the algorithm, it gives others the incentive to do the same, to create content of their sick, injured child. And if it doesn't happen organically, it could be encouraging parents or caregivers to injure their child for content, for likes, for views, for clicks, for money. And I think it needs to be put to a stop. I don't think that social media should allow videos of children with their medical information, their private information on display. And while we're at it, I don't think you should give baths to children on the internet. I don't think that should be legal either. Disgusting. I doubt Rachel will ever watch this, but if she does watch this, give your child the privacy and dignity that he deserves. He is so vulnerable in the sense that not only is he a child, but he cannot verbalize to you that he is not comfortable with you putting the camera in his face and filming him when he is hurt or in distress. Put the camera down and take care of your kid. He's not content. His medical traumas are not your content. It's not your experience to monetize off of. If you want to talk about parenting a child with cerebral palsy, then do it without filming your kid. It's gross. I feel better just saying that. Not really, because it's not going to solve much. But anyway, if you have a moment and you feel the same as I do, I suggest that you go to her channel and you report the video. And then she's made like a series of videos after this. It's all content. So much content to be made and so much incentive there, you guys. Really think about it. When that is her sole income, the incentive is there to have a sick and injured child. Anyways, I think that is going to be all for today's discussion. Do let me know what you guys think. Am I being harsh? I know that I do have, like I said, a unique perspective, being that I was that child before. I did spend tons and tons and tons of days in the hospital, doctor's visits, and I'm so thankful that you guys didn't get to watch. And I mean that in the nicest way, but seriously, it was really traumatic and I wouldn't want to share it with the world, and I think that that's totally normal. So yeah, anyways, let me know what you guys think. Otherwise, I wish you guys nothing but the best. Don't forget to learn something new every day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.